Welcome back. Let's just jump right into it. So, look, there's 3 reasons why Melly might win. And then we got 3 reasons why he might lose this case. Let's just go straight into it. Reason number 3 we have is the prosecution has had some shady tactics, bringing in late evidence and discovery violation and things like that. I'm going to pull up a video so you guys can see the details of that.
So as far as I'm already is concerned, I think that's a discovery violation. And I'm finding it to be a discovery violation. I think the only way it can be cured is he's not going to testify about this second procedure that happened. That's not coming in. That's new discovery. You know, the defense doesn't have an opportunity to depose the witness. The defense doesn't have an opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. And that's just not the way it should be. It shouldn't be done by surprise. So
it's clear this was not a new item. This was just this, all of the information was supposed to be identical.
You found it, you had a meeting with the detective in May.
All right, we'll get back to that. Reason number 2, the defense is doing a great job at representing Melly. Regardless, they on top of pretty much everything that the prosecution has thrown out. They pointed out the fact, I feel like, that they did a rush investigation at the end of the day. Prosecution is doing a very sloppy job at putting the pieces together, and defense is there to counter every bit of evidence that was thrown at them so far.
First test didn't find DNA, but then a second test may have. And as you heard, Rhodes was sent items to examine years after YNW Melly was arrested, and at times seemed to not know where the items were recovered from. And I believe this all goes towards something that the defense has argued, that police conducted a shoddy investigation, that it was sloppy. And so their results and their findings have to be questioned. That seems to be the point that the defense is making for the jury.
And we got the number 1 reason why Melly might win this case is because at the end of the day, prosecution is just looking ridiculous. We got them arguing with the judge. We got them, violating court rules and just all types of weird shenanigans. So I'm going to just have to show you guys some example of what's going on in the courtroom and what the judge and what the judge has to deal with. Even the judge himself looks hella irritated and whatnot.
In her hand, some of them already. So I just want to make sure I don't double print them.
Just double print.
So
counsel's suggesting she doesn't have them. So let's just print them all.
Okay, well she does have some of this. That's what I make sure. For the record,
I don't know, you're saying they're sent, counsel suggesting she hasn't received those things. I just want her to get copies of it. I don't want your constant back and forth. Well, she has them, just get her the copies. That's it. It's easy. Just get her the copies.
And the judge was also none too happy with the prosecution again when he said that they committed a discovery violation. You see, the state can't introduce something into evidence and you...
All right. Going back to the discovery violation, the judge got irritated in another situation right here. You know what I'm saying? And let's go ahead and just play it.
Meeting with him in May after we picked it.
Hold on, let's see.
So
it's clear this was not a new item. This was just this, all of the information was supposed to be identical.
You found it, you had a meeting with the detective in May when we're in hiatus because I'm on vacation. All right? You got a meeting with him in May after we picked a jury. And when we're ready we're in the middle of jury selection. You picked it, you did it, and you said what we did. He tells you, or you ask him, do you have more programs to go ahead and provide the information? And you find out there's another program, and he runs the program, does a different download with something other than Cellbrite.
So, Judge, you could tell he was obviously irritated by her. He just backtracking her story, saying, "Bitch, you got all of this assembled really late. This is a discovery violation. Bottom line, defense doesn't have this information, and you're bringing it into the courtroom. I was on vacation when you tried to hit me up about something in regards to the matter, so I'm already knowing what you're talking about. Like he's clearly irritated. If the prosecution wants the jury to side with them, because it's not the prosecution who ultimately determines what happens, they have to prove it. And if they want to be believable, they got to, you know what I'm saying, get their shit together. You know what I'm saying? I'm a mutual party. You know what I'm saying? Lives were involved. We have two people who are dead in this, and I want to know the truth too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, ultimately, prosecution just looks ridiculous up there, and the jury is watching them look ridiculous. So that's the number one reason why I think Melly might win this case. But on the opposite end, these are three reasons why Melly might lose this case. Starting with reason number 3, we can't deny that he was in a Jeep. We can't deny the fact that he was in the Jeep. And that is going to come up later. You know what I'm saying? But that is a fact. We have video evidence. We have, DNA evidence that he was in the Jeep. Whether the DNA evidence came in late or not, we have video evidence of him physically going in that Jeep. That part right here.
The rear passenger side door handle of the Jeep where the two men were killed. Now, on one hand, that's not very surprising because we already know that Demmons was in that car. There's even surveillance footage of him getting into that car after the recording studio on the night of the murders.
Reason number 2. The jury is watching both sides. You know, we got hurt parents and family, and we got Melly over here doing questionable behavior, this very weird demeanor that he has in court, blowing kisses and smiling and doing all this, just this weird shady shit. You know what I'm saying? The jury sees him in his behavior at the same time as they're looking at that hurt mother, and you know, he has to be careful because it's not the judge who makes the decision. It's not the prosecutor who makes the decision. It's the jury. Okay.
Oh my gosh, what is going on here? Was Melly kissing kind of into his hands, and then it appeared he was blowing it out? So Bernarda, it almost feels like it was like a little bit of a prayer there, and then this kind of almost like a Zen moment, and then poof. So what do you make of this? I should mention a lot of this is going on outside the presence of the jury, but it's still being captured and seen everywhere.
So as you can see with Melly, a lot is going on.
So that's interesting that this is going on outside the presence of the jury, at least with the kiss and things like that. But I'm sure, even though the jury's not supposed to look into this when they go home and things like that. I mean, this is the 21st century. This is 2023. I'm more than positive when the jury goes home, they're probably looking into the case. I mean, it's a very high profile case, and not looking into it in a sense of did he do it, did he not? But I mean, just shit like this, law, the news, media. It may or may not be. I'm not sure. I can't say. But a moment as viral as that kiss, somebody who knows them, sure, probably talked about it. They have kids, nephews, cousins. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. I'm going to just keep playing this just so we can get a little more of his courtroom demeanor.
In his mind. In terms of the pressures that he's facing, remember that he's facing the death penalty. So a lot is riding on this trial. So I'm sure that he was probably sending a prayer and also just asking for some peace or calming down of his mind. But who knows? Because we can't get into his mind frame.
I think one of the things that's important to keep in mind here and kind of preparing for this trial, I watched a lot of interviews and videos of Melly, and I remember him talking about kind of these two kind of personalities within him. Melly, who's kind of chill, and Melvin, who was more protective, I guess, or maybe had more of a violent streak. And maybe there's just a lot going on within him, as you mentioned, that we don't know about. And he even talked in one interview about having more than two personalities, more than the Melly and the Melvin. So do you think that might be part of what is going on here?
That's a good point.
It's possible. You gotta
was that really just some rap shit or what? Yeah, that's a good question. All right, so one thing we gotta understand is whether or not the jury was there when he was making these actions I can reassure you that people who are close to the jury, like let's just say the jury has like I said, nephews, nieces, cousins, sons, daughters, any sort of youth surrounding them that would know anything about this. There's showing them, they're asking them questions. Did you see this? Oh, what, da 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 da. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, look at this. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you can't really stop something like that from happening. Like as a jury, you're not supposed to go home and do any sort of research or talk about the case or anything like that. But that's not going to stop people from hounding you about it, especially if they know that you're a part of that jury. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, maybe number 2 isn't as serious as a reason, and that can, flop with the number 3 reason, his demeanor. But the number 1 reason is the ballistics report that we don't have. That could be the nail in the coffin that seals his fate as far as proving that he did it. Is because we have yet to have the experts, the forensics, all the nerd guys, the science dudes. I don't really know the terminology for it. I'm sure some of you guys do. It's out there somewhere. But we haven't had those guys say, this is exactly where the bullet came from that shot him. It came from outside the car or inside the car. If we get a forensics guy on stand stating without a doubt, with 100% certainty, that the passenger that was killed in this seat was killed by the passenger in this seat, and with the DNA evidence, if it all points like that, that could be the nail that seals his fate.
There's even surveillance footage of him getting into that car after the recording studio on the night of the murders. But if prosecutors can definitively establish that the shooting happened from inside the car and from the back, based on ballistics and trajectory and the medical examiner's report, this DNA evidence could help them. And
there you have it. So that is the number 1 reason why I feel like he could potentially lose this case. I feel like everything is riding on those experts, the medical examination, and what do you say, the trajectory, ballistics reports, things like that. So their story is that they were hit in a drive-by shooting. What the forensics report is, I think, what the entire prosecution is basing their investigation on. I believe that's their trump card in this whole thing, is that regardless of what we know, he was in the car, and we know the trigger was pulled from the guy sitting directly next to him, execution style, because of autopsy report and because of whatever the other experts say. So I want you guys to get up in the comment. Let me know how you guys feel. Do you guys think he might beat this case? Do you think he might lose? Do you think he did it? You know what I'm saying? How do you guys feel about this? Let me know below. And yeah, until next time, kids. Every 5K, I'm going to do a live giveaway. And the prizes only get better as we get bigger.